Hello, everyone. Today is another episode in PackView's Fireside Chat series. I am Matt McGrory from PackView, here today with Michael from Cellcord, and today we're discussing Walmart advertising and how you can improve your Walmart product listings.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to jump right into it because I know for a lot of our clients and just a lot of advertisers in general, understanding the Walmart algorithm and Walmart product listings is kind of a blank space for a lot of people when we tend to see a lot more expertise for other retail media websites. So first question for you, Michael, is what factors does the Walmart algorithm take into account when it's determining a product's ranking or a product listing where it appears for Walmart?
That's a great question. I like that as being like I think the foundation of being able to properly advertise or properly like address the platform is just understanding as a baseline of like how their algorithm works and how they structure things. So the way I like splitting it up and just understanding their rank is it's in a few different levels. So at the baseline of their algorithm, all products are kind of associated to a product type. And then each of those product types have like a list of queries and different search results that are related to that product type. So you want to make sure, first of all, you're in the right, if your product gets assigned a product type, you want to make sure it's in the right product type. And then, that way your product sort of stays eligible to be featured for for those keywords, to, index for those keywords. Then the next level in rank is, some of the biggest things that you could do on your side is really from the last result until the 126th spot. You have that entire space of where you rank within there is a lot based on a balance of your listing quality score. So Walmart assigns every listing a listing quality score. Now your listing quality score is broken down into a few different elements. So, and they keep changing a little bit how that works. But it's basically like a gamified system. So you have a score assigned to your listing, and, big part of the score is, how many of your attributes you fill out and how well you fill out your attributes, right? So that's a big part of it because Walmart wants they want to be able to structure their catalog well. In order for them to be able to do that, they need the attributes filled out correctly and properly and, as detailed as possible. So you want to make sure that, that's one way how I guess they incentivize sellers to really fill out those attributes. Another thing is, is their content guidelines. So that impacts your content score. So it's the length of your title, the length of your, description, key features. And, there's different metrics that are involved in it. If you have spelling errors, you'll lose points. If you, go too long in your title, you lose points. There's a lot of different things that are associated with it, and Walmart will tell you what those things are. Now, that's a big part of your listing content score. And then the other parts are offer, right? Where, your price, and then, there's, you want to make sure, and then it's like post-purchase. So if you have issues after your orders and all that stuff, that affects it. So you want to just make sure you have a high listing quality score. Now, it's really important to understand that listing quality score is a big point of it, but also, there's SEO best practices, and not necessarily what Walmart says that is is what you should do in their style guides. And, every category has a style guide, and what they say you should do in your style guides and what the best practices for that doesn't necessarily mean it's best from SEO perspective. So sometimes you might want to, lose a little bit of points. You might go a little longer on your title because you need to include certain keywords, and you need to kind of have that. But it's important to kind of just have an understanding of that it's, you want to make sure you have high listing quality scores. And, so your products, has a really high chance of indexing well. And then the biggest thing about the Walmart algorithm, which has been changes that, is a more recent thing, is it's mainly based on conversion rate. Once you're at that point, like from the, page approximately 4 until, the first positions, it's based on conversion rate. So you want to basically do whatever you can once you're at that point to make sure you have the highest conversion rate. And conversion rate, it's like, we like addressing it in a few different things. So it's like, how do you make sure you get the highest click-through rate? So when people see your product, what could you do to make sure that people actually click on it? What can you make sure that when people actually go to your listing, there's the highest chance they add it to cart? And then, what things could you do to just make sure they actually purchase it? And if you address each of those elements and you understand each of those elements, you're positioned much better for success.
That's awesome. So it sounds like, if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like there's some pretty core basic fundamentals that you have across retailers and across the spectrum, but then also some Walmart specific nuances that are really important to understand to succeed on Walmart.
Yeah. And what I've realized is like every growing platform comes to this intersection where, a lot of times they have all these kind of things that they want you to do. And for some platforms, it's a necessity you do it and you have to do it to be successful. And some platforms, by doing it, it's an advantage and it's leverage. Walmart's at this cross point right now where by doing these things, it puts you ahead of the game, but it's becoming more and more of a necessity. So it's like, you're going to have to pay attention to these stuff, in a year for sure, and later than that, like these stuff are going to become much more necessities, but it's at this point right now where it puts you above the competition. It gives you a bit more of an advantage when you do these things, and you address these elements.
Absolutely. I think one mistake that we've seen in the past couple of years is people applying, for example, their Amazon playbook to Walmart and just not really having the same success that they would expect. So it's great to have this type of insight into what specifically drives the Walmart engine versus other, comparable but not identical retailers.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of big accounts that were doing really well on Walmart just by having such large catalogs just onboarded. And it used to, you didn't really have to do anything. Now those sales are going down and down because they haven't been adapting to it. And then new brands that are coming on that are actually creating a unique approach for that are actually, growing. So we're kind of seeing that evolution.
Awesome. And then on that same vein, kind of a tangent there is, in your opinion, how does the Walmart advertising algorithm or just the Walmart algorithm in general compare to Amazon, and how are they, more importantly, how are they different?
So I think, with Amazon, there's a couple things. So I think with Amazon, what's really important is that Amazon is a lot based on sales volume, right? So, that will affect a lot of times where you're ranked. I'll have a really big portion of it will impact that. On Walmart, it's, as we said, it's stronger based on conversion rate. So you could have a new listing that doesn't have a lot of sales volume and you could rank really high because you have that high conversion rate. So I think that's one of the big differences. I think another big difference is Walmart is a lot about, they want a high quality kind of catalog. So they're trying to incentivize more and more high quality content, and things of that nature, because number one, they want to rank a lot within Google, but also they want it to be unique and they want it to be, easier for the customer to understand, things like that. So they're helping kind of, creating this gamified system, so to say, where they could help kind of incentivize that. I think, where we see, a lot of the changes, the difference between Walmart and Amazon is a lot within advertising. And where you see a lot within advertising is that Amazon, for example, like some of the biggest differences, I like to kind of say, and, a lot of people know this already, but Amazon is a second price auction. So like whatever, if I'm bidding $2, I put a $2 bid, but that's not what it's going for. It's going for $1. I'm going to bid, over like a bit over $1. And that's what, what I'm going to end up paying. On Walmart, if the going bid is $1, but you put $10 as a bid, if you're winning that, like you're going to pay $10. So it's really important to kind of understand, how to advertise, what you're doing, and being able to play very close attention to that because of that. So that's number one. Number two, which is probably the most important, is that on Amazon, when you run advertising, you have your advertising placement and you have your organic placement. So let's say you're running ads on resistance bands. You have your advertising placement, at the first spot, and let's say you have your organic position at the fourth spot, right? So it's like, your advertising spot might be taking a bit from your organic position, from your organic sales, but you're having two placements, you're gaining a lot more sales. On Walmart, if you're ranked, let's say in the fourth position, organically, and then you're running advertising, and the advertising spot is, let's say, the second position, your organic position isn't going to show anymore. So what ends up happening is you're paying for all these clicks, right, when you're cannibalizing your organic sales. So it's just really important to understand how you're advertising. That being said, there's so much, I guess, more open opportunity with Walmart for advertising, because there's so many spaces people aren't advertising at all. You're not bidding against people, this and that. So like by properly understanding it, you're able to get all these keywords and bid on all these things, which are really, really, could have great return on. You just have to probably know what you're doing and be really on top of it. And I think it kind of shows with some other differences where it's like Walmart, it's a lot tied to your catalog. So you can't just run advertising and have somebody, on your team run advertising that doesn't, control the catalog or know what's happening with the catalog. Because Walmart, another thing is they have, like, in order to be able to run advertising, manual campaigns, you have to be ranked within the first, 126 positions on these keywords. So it's like, you want to make sure that you have like good listing quality scores, your product type's good, your categories are good, all that stuff is good. So you're able to run advertising, because you could just keep putting up your bids and you're just not going to get any impressions. And it could be a lot because of that. So I think, with Walmart, it's like having a really good control of your catalog, crafting it in a way where it's really positioned for success. Even, if it's not making the impact that you would have wanted to organically, it's going to make a really big difference in advertising. And we see that time and time again, where it's like, it makes a massive difference like that.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, something that you mentioned earlier, the first price versus second price auction model, something that may seem on its face to be very, very basic is such a critically important detail to make sure you're understanding how to advertise differently, because as you said, has, huge implications on how much you're going to be paying and how efficient your advertising is.
Exactly. Yep. That's what we
Awesome.
over time.
And then I think you already started to answer the question, or you alluded to it, but in your opinion, what would be your recommendation to an advertiser in Walmart for what are the top 2 to 3 or 4 things they can do to make sure their product listings are standing out and reaching the top of search results on Walmart?
Yeah, I think you want to really make sure you think of it from a consumer standpoint. So look at your listing and go through the consumer journey and be like, what are things I could do to improve my conversion rate, right? So like when I search my keyword, what are things that, how can I make sure my image, it's obvious, like is very likely that somebody's going to click on that? How could I make sure that, let's say for example, maybe I can include, a reduced price badge or a clearance badge or one of those things while Walmart has available that can increase conversion rate. Maybe that's something you want to address. Another thing that shows, so to say in the hero and in the thumbnail before you click on the product is, if you are WFS and you have the Walmart Plus badge, like that's a thing that increases conversion rate and increases that click through. So like, that's something you could add to your listing and just that impacts conversion rate a lot. Once they click on your listing though, then continue going through the consumer journey. Like what's things that I could include in the image scroll that just help tell that product story that, hopefully get them to just right away add it to cart. If they keep scrolling, what are things, how do I address each element of it? So, how do in the listing content, what could I do with, rich media, which we could touch on, or what could I do, obviously they're going to get down to your reviews. How do you make sure that, you're competitive there? And this, so as you kind of read through it, it's like, what could you do to just make sure that you have the highest conversion rate possible? So I think that's just really important to understand because, structuring your catalog and just following a lot of the guidelines and things like that, you get that in place, then all your other efforts go much further. So it's like, you just want to take it step by step and make sure you're following a good roadmap. And I think that's a really big thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we always give that recommendation to our advertisers, which is we understand that you want to get started with advertising and you want to invest in your business quickly, but you can't do that before you have a strong foundation in place and strong product detail page, fundamentals, and content. So I love that recommendation to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward before you start investing and spending money on advertising.
Yeah, we'll see that a lot of times with clients is like they were running advertising a lot with a different company, whatever it might be. And a lot of times, they have like a negative taste towards advertising because they're like, oh, it didn't work out. We got this,
Yep.
This wasn't good enough for us. And we look at the catalog, we're like, there's a lot of listings that just you weren't able to even run advertising on. You weren't able to get placements on. You weren't able to kind of thing. A lot of keywords you weren't able to, compete on. So it's like, you're right. You're losing a month in time where you might not be able to advertise. And then, but by just properly doing that, everything else is just kind of, flows much better. And, we've seen that have so much impact, specifically just because of how Walmart's just structured their advertising. It's like, they want it. They want that. They want sellers to be the most, incentivized to just create the highest quality catalog.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about, the customer journey, retail fundamentals, product detail, page content. As an advertiser on Walmart, what sort of metrics from an advertising perspective would you encourage them to focus on to be able to help start to build page rank?
I would say you want to just, as we touched on conversion rate, I think you want to basically, there's so many different campaigns you could run, placements you could run, really things like that. I would say it's like understand number one, listing quality score. Make sure you have a good listing quality score. Then number two is make sure you have conversion rate. Now Walmart gives you data on conversion rate. Make sure you have good conversion rate. A lot of it you could think of logically of like what you could do to increase your conversion rate, or you could take different things that work for you for Amazon or whatever that might be and infuse a lot of those things into your listing. But, what could you do to, number two is, I guess, conversion rate. And then you're going to want to just really make sure that, you're going to really want to make sure you have quick shipping. It's making more and more and more and more of an impact. So you're going to want to make sure that's in place. And then when you're running your advertising, I think it's just really important that you still really continue to pay attention to your conversion rate, because if you're running ads on things that just aren't converting well, it's going to kill your overall listing rank, and that could have a lot of negative impact. So it's like, but if you're running advertising on things that are converting really well, you're going to get kind of that flywheel effect where Walmart's going to start giving you much more placements. Your organic rank is going to really grow a lot, and you're going to be able to kind of get a lot of that. So, I'll say it 100 times, but it's like conversion rate. It's so important. And, by just following the proper guidelines, like you could really be in a position where you're able to get the visibility where your conversion rate will pay off.
Absolutely. And so similar question to that, I think you already touched on a few of the points for the answer to this question, but instead of telling advertisers what should you do, what's the top 3 things to do, we also get the question a lot, what should I avoid? What are the biggest pitfalls that Walmart advertisers have? So if you were telling a Walmart advertiser, what's the main, what's your number one thing to avoid on Walmart advertising, what would it be?
So I think number one, don't run advertising on any listings that that aren't structured correctly. It's going to cause you more issues down the line. It's going to become more and more difficult to advertise those, and it's not worth it. We've seen time and time again. Even if you sometimes have good campaigns running on some of those, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse as Walmart kind of adapts their algorithm to incentivize good quality catalogs more. So I think that's number one. I think number two is don't cannibalize your organic sales. Instead, use it as leverage to build organic rank. So like there's ways to use it as leverage to build rank on your listings and then, really gain organic sales. Don't look at it as a way to just basically, it's performing really well on all these, keywords. I'm just kind of going to leave it like that. There's a lot of those placements, you're ranked high organically, and it's great. Advertising got you to that place, but kind of understand is like which keywords, I have good organic placement on, and which keywords, so I want to kind of maintain that. And then, there's so much advertising opportunity for extra sales, across, different placements where, that's just bringing extra revenue. Right. So you want to kind of make sure you get those, the buy box placements, the carousel the carousel placements. Like there's a lot of places, you're going to get placements in sometimes other categories, which, are bringing a lot of sales to your product. Those are extra sales. So I like kind of splitting it up is like, number one, it's like advertising to gain rank and kind of gain exposure. And that's like number two, advertising for like extra sales. So it's like, don't just run advertising, so to say, blindly, as obvious as it sounds. Kind of understand your goal of like what you're trying to get out of these campaigns. And based on that, you could structure what you're doing best. So it's like, don't just, run blindly. And then just because it's giving a good ROI, assume that, you're just going to continue running it like that.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's great advice for pretty much every advertiser. So, and then last question I have for you today is, what is Walmart Rich Media? And then how should advertisers be leveraging Walmart Rich Media?
Awesome. So Rich Media is one of my favorite things about Walmart. Rich Media is basically most equivalent to it is like Amazon's A+ content. So it's very similar to that. A lot of the same functionalities and way even more functionalities. So, you can have it basically a lot. So on Amazon, you work directly with Amazon to do it. On Walmart, you have to work with a content service provider to do it. So at Cellcord, we host Rich Media, and we work with a third-party provider to be able to host Rich Media. And, we have, a very easy to use platform where you could just upload your content that you really have from Amazon, and we'll work with clients who have a lot of their Amazon content and craft it in a way to kind of post it on Walmart. And what's really great is you could really tell it's, as going back to conversion rate, it's just another thing that really impacts your conversion rate. And it's the really interesting thing about Walmart is that most people aren't doing it, so it gives you that extra push that you kind of need. So one quick note about it is Walmart Rich Media is down for a little bit of time now because they redid their whole site and they're working on reintegrate it. In the next few months, it'll be fully reintegrated, hopefully, but they're slowly going to be re-rolling it out. But there's so much you could do from a conversion rate standpoint with Rich Media. And we've just seen that for a big kind of, it's just been a lot of leverage we're able to kind of have because of conversion rate. And for a lot of brands and a lot of products, it's more important than others to be able to really tell the product story and be able to tell the brand story. But we've seen also it just helps build more of a relationship with your customers, and there's so much you could do through it. And what's great is a lot of brands already have all that content. It just has to be edited and crafted specifically for one. But it's not a lot of differences or changes that have to be done. So we definitely see that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. This has all been extremely helpful. I'm sure our listeners or viewers will also find this information on Walmart advertising super helpful. If they do want to get in touch with you or Cellcord, what's the best way to do that?
Awesome. Yeah. So if you just go to cellcord.co and just, you can fill out the form there. Somebody will reach out to you with more details, get an understanding of your brand, how you could potentially, we potentially work together, or just, if you want advice on certain things, we could definitely get back to you on that. So yeah, there's just a very simple form to fill out. Just a minute, somebody will get back to you usually within 24 hours.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Michael, for joining us. Please follow Cellcord on LinkedIn and follow PackView on LinkedIn as well to make sure that you catch our next series in PackView's Fireside Chat. All right, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.